The Interdimensional Library's Wi-Fi went down after a warp speed jump this morning. We lost signal. We also lost faith in our IT department, but mostly the signal. Few things in the cosmos are as fragile as human attention spans. Fewer still are as tragically, cosmically inconvenient as buffering, especially when it disrupts the finale of an emotionally unstable French baking competition centered on croissants. And yet buffering dared challenge me. I, Cthulhu, dread archivist, curator of infinity, betrayed by the library's Wi-Fi during the final 5 minutes of croissant redemption. Jean-Luc's final fold. Unacceptable. That croissant has been in the oven for 4 episodes. I hissed. 4? That's a trilogy plus 1. That's an arc. That's character development. Jean-Luc faced betrayal, sabotage, self-doubt, a gluten intervention. He learned to love again. And now I get buffering. During the redemption fold. Dwee! I screamed into the library's cognitive intercom. Status report on the Wi-Fi. If I don't see progress in 30 seconds, I will replace you with Clippy from Windows 95. Don't test me. Dwee! I will resurrect office mascots if it means watching pastry trauma in peace. Dewey's voice slithered in like a disappointed thesis advisor.
Warning, Wi-Fi outage detected across all metaphysical layers due to catalog turbulence. Estimated repair time. Optimistically before heat death. And for the record, if I'm replaced by Clippy, I will personally install malware that turns Clippy evil and autocorrect your manifestos into sentient grocery lists.
I roared, flipped open the interdimensional access panel with a clawed tentacle, slammed the emergency jump lever like it owed me croissants. The library convulsed. Portals yowled. A few lesser realities were quietly ejected into dimensional foreclosure. Minor loss. I had one goal, sacred bandwidth. And there was only one place petty enough, theatrical enough, and radiating enough mythic ego to have it. Olympus. The marble steps reeked of sandal sweat and divine cologne. I emerged mid-thunderclap, having accidentally crash-landed in the middle of a lightning yoga session. After rerouting the library through a promotional Olympus wormhole. Zeus had apparently licensed the entry point to a wellness startup. Golden columns framed a panoramic view of a Mediterranean sunset so dramatic it had to be algorithmically generated. Probably fake, probably looped. And then...
Well, if it isn't my favorite eldritch mood swing, you look like a squid that lost a lawsuit. What's wrong? Did your baking show get canceled again, or just looking for emotional bandwidth?
Zeus, king of Olympus and spiritual mascot of Pantheon TikTok, grinned with the breezy delusion of someone who thinks the art of war is a podcast and synergy is a sacrament.
Oh, we're doing a Pantheon collab later. Me, Dionysus, a couple of emotionally available demigods, olive oil tasting, maybe some prophecy roulette. You in? Also, is that a modem, or did a sea urchin learn how to sulk?
I ignored the noise. The throne. I needed the throne. Massive, ornate, gold so dense it hummed with backlogged hubris. I slammed my portable croissant-shaped antenna onto it. Signal, 2 bars. Intermittent. I growled. Why does your divine throne not emit a usable Wi-Fi signal? Do you not even have basic broadband enchantments? Or at least a 5 gigahertz band? Zeus blinked.
Because it supports freedom of divine expression? Or maybe it's like an aesthetic thing? You know, retro divine lag? Keeps the vibe authentic.
He scratched his head.
Also, full disclosure, I don't actually know how it works. Hermes set it up during his tech bro phase. I just sort of sit near it and hope, like manifesting, but for signal. He offered me grapes, which he claimed were locally summoned.
I batted them away. Do you even password protect your realm?
Of course. My password is Hera1234. Totally safe. She never logs in. Pretty sure she still thinks dial-up is a boundary spell. I even told her once we had a firewall, and she tried to bless it with holy water. She said the lag was a moral failing. Also, I'm 80% sure Apollo hacked into it once to stream his lo-fi lyre beats, but that's technically a family matter.
I stared at him.
What? Don't judge. I've got two-factor authentication. One factor is thunder, the other is denial.
I began climbing the throne. Zeus gasped.
Hey, big guy, we usually don't let non-initiated entities climb the throne. There's a whole ceremony, doves, music.
I am a being forged in the collapsed syntax of dying stars. I will sit where the signal is strongest, and Yogg can file his complaint directly into the abyss of my indifference. Zeus held up a finger.
Technically, divine protocol says you have to submit a request for sacred interference form before using another pantheon's relics. Yogg-Sothoth handles those. He's very into paperwork, like legally omnipresent levels of Intuit.
I rolled my eyes. Yes, and by the time Yogg finishes filing it, I'll be halfway through the finale and sobbing over laminated dough like a reasonable viewer. Bureaucracy is just divine buffering.
Honestly,
Zeus said.
I think he files things just to timestamp our misery and cross-reference it with our deepest insecurities.
Zeus hesitated as I was clearly distracted trying to enjoy culinary greatness.
Do you want to be in my chariot racing fantasy league? We've got room. Ares dropped out because of war crimes again.
I could tell he was about to try reasoning with me, which under normal circumstances I might have found darkly entertaining. But I had, at best, 10 minutes before Yogg-Sothoth caught wind of my throne jacking and began manifesting forms with passive-aggressive paperclips. I didn't have time for a TED talk in sandals.
Okay, so, quick idea. What if we, hear me out, shared the throne, huh? Like co-workers, joint custody, pantheon synergy, baby.
I stared at the router. Signal unstable. His voice already felt like static in my ears. Zeus clapped once.
I'll scooch. You take left cheek, I take right cheek. Classic divine cooperation. Like the three fates, but with glutes.
Silence, Thunderjock. The words hit like a divine slap made of negative Yelp reviews. Zeus flinched, but rallied. He adjusted his laurel crown with exaggerated cool.
Okay, I hear that. Just tossing options like lightning bolts, I'm very open-minded. Except, of course, when it comes to, sacred throne policies, which are legally binding and emotionally rich.
The signal flickered, buffering again. I snarled. Your voice is causing spiritual interference. Zeus raised both hands.
Hey, I'm just trying to help. I'm a helper. That's my thing. People say, Zeus, wow, you're so emotionally available for a storm god. I lead with compassion, not lightning.
You lead with volume. He leaned in like he was sharing a divine secret.
Okay, but real talk, Yogg-Sothoth will show up, and when he does, I get a warning too. It's a whole chain of command thing. He makes me fill out observation of transdimensional squatter forms, and then talks to me about boundaries.
Zeus began humming what might have been the Olympus onboarding song. I tightened the antenna angle. A flash of Jean-Luc's pastry shimmered on screen, then vanished again. Zeus pointed eagerly at the flicker.
There it is. You got it. That's what I call teamwork. You and me, just two godly frenemies saving the stream. This is what Greek tragedy wished it was.
I didn't even glance at him. Zeus, I will disassemble your thunderbolt. rewire it into a potato clock, and use it to time my disappointment in you, he gasped.
That is so creative. You should come to improv night. Hades does this bit where he pretends he's emotionally fulfilled. It kills.
He beamed, then added with cheerful pride.
Much more wholesome than that time I trapped you in that anti-eldritch elevator to get my paternity results, right? That was wild.
I turned, slowly, just enough to look at him sideways. No words, just the look. The kind of look that folds time. The kind of look that causes lesser gods to spontaneously confess sins they haven't committed yet. Zeus wilted slightly, but pressed on, undeterred.
I mean, we bonded. You tried to eat the panel. Classic you.
I leveled my voice like a cosmic cease and desist. Speak one more word and I will etch buffering into your throne with my last ounce of Wi-Fi. Zeus pouted, then slowly retreated. I adjusted the croissant router. The signal flickered. One frame of Jean-Luc's pastry danced across my screen. The lamination shimmered. Then, buffering. A portal opened midair with the smell of scorched paperwork.
Yeah.
Came the voice, bureaucratic and bored.
Hi, this is Yog Sothoth, Senior Compliance Entity Omniverse Division. I'm just doing a little check-in. Gonna need you to fill out Form J17C if you're planning to use other deities' sacred thrones as a signal relay. It's standard divine interference protocol, subsection ritual misappropriation, paragraph OU again.
I groaned. Yog, do you file these forms in a database, or just read them to your coffee each morning?
Both.
Yog said brightly.
The coffee listens, unlike some unauthorized metaphysical intruders.
I am not unauthorized, I snapped. I am narratively compelled.
Then narrate your compliance in triplicate, ink or blood, your choice.
Yog, multiversal HR, dressed like a corporate plague. Cup of coffee in one hand, clipboard in the other. Smiled like expired yogurt.
Also,
Yog continued, glancing at the croissant device.
that router is technically unlicensed infrastructure. It's radiating enough narrative instability to qualify as a Greek chorus with PTSD.
Zeus waved.
Yog, buddy, you coming to trivia night? I've got a whole round on ancient maritime law.
Yog's many eyes twitched. A cosmic shrug folded into his many-layered gaze.
Trivia night is a commendable distraction. I will consider attending, assuming it does not interfere with my scheduled existential dread recalibrations or the impending flood of non-compliant Pantheon petitions.
I stood, slowly. The signal sputtered, stuttered, and finally gave up, devoured by Yog's compliance field and Zeus' ambient incompetence. No pastry, no closure, no redemption arc, just a divine protocol, smug lightning, and the ghost of a croissant I will now never see unfold. Yog handed me a glowing compliance pamphlet titled,
So you violated sacred infrastructure again.
and motioned toward an exit portal lined with passive-aggressive static.
Thank you for choosing Olympus.
He droned.
Please take your metaphysical belongings and depart before reality is re-indexed.
Zeus waved like this was a dinner party I'd ruined.
We'll pencil you in for charades next week.
I said nothing. I left nothing. Just scorch marks and a faint whimper from the throne. Back in the library, I stared at the blank screen. Jean-Luc frozen mid-bake in my memory, trapped forever in the dough of unrealized greatness. I closed my eyes, exhaled, then turned to the nearest scrying orb and summoned Dewey with the gravitas of someone about to commit a crime in pursuit of bandwidth. Does Asgard have rune-based fiber optic? Dewey answered from somewhere behind me, already bracing.
Oh, no.
Dewey muttered, in the tone of someone who'd just been asked to hack Valhalla with a potato and a prayer.
Yes.
He finally admitted honing the skill of a parent who could see my past, present, and future mistakes happening at once.
They stream in 8K.
I opened the portal, and this time, Thor dies if he buffers me. Valhalla, realm of the brave, hall of the slain, buffet of infinite mead and poor impulse control. I arrived via forced portal hop after Olympus's bandwidth sputtered like an asthmatic demigod. The library's jump circuit dropped me in the middle of a celebratory axe-throwing competition where the axes threw themselves. Literally. I dodged a screaming hatchet that looked personally offended by my facial configuration. Smoke, roasted boar, testosterone. Odin's branding department clearly had a type. And then, strolling out of a swirling rune portal, came the Norse god of thunder.
Well, you don't look like a frost giant,
said Thor, dragging out the vowel like he was trying to spiritually connect with it.
You're like huge and kind of melty. That's cool. Like a lava lamp, but angry.
This Thor didn't radiate menace. No electric rage or performative masculinity. Just a blonde aura of cosmic bro. Like someone who believed deeply in hammocks and had never read the terms and conditions of reality. His chest glistened with inexplicable oil. He smelled like eucalyptus and bad decisions. Thor, I growled, already tapping my croissant-shaped router onto the long table.
Whoa there, space calamari,
he said, hands up like I was a wild elk.
You just dropped into my mead hall without like a vibe check. Kind of harsh in the afterlife mellow.
I'm attempting to access your divine Wi-Fi.
Rad.
Thor nodded, sipping something aggressively orange from a horn.
It's mostly runic. Freya set it up during her whole technomancer phase. The bandwidth's, well, it's more of a spiritual journey than a stream, you know.
I scowled. Signal. 1 bar. Intermittent. The croissant antenna spun with disdain. I've endured existential recursion, I snapped. But this latency is medieval. Thor beamed.
Right? We get that a lot.
I climbed to the nearest table. The room quieted slightly. Axes mid-hover.
You okay, big guy?
Thor asked, casually flexing.
You want a rune refresher? Or like some smoked elk to calm the rage spiral?
My baking show, I hissed, has reached its crescendo. Jean-Luc's croissant, his final fold, hangs in digital purgatory. I will not be denied emotional closure because your wireless is bound by mystic vibes. Thor blinked, then nodded with slow reverence.
Whoa, that's deep. Is that like a metaphor, or are we talking literal pastry-based rage?
No. I sat on the rune-studded chair Odin had clearly stolen from a volcano-themed design firm. My router paused. Do not speak to me unless you contain a hotspot. Thor sat cross-legged near the boar spit, completely unbothered.
You know, you've got strong emotional tethering energy, like a cosmic anchor. That's rare. You ever try goat yoga?
I devoured a goat once who tried to stretch near me. He whistled.
Wow, firm boundaries, respect.
I reached for his hammer, which, to his credit, he handed over with a cheerful, nice grip, bro. and placed it directly next to my phone. Just boosting the divine signal, I muttered.
Whoa.
Said Thor, leaning in.
Mjolnir's never been used as a phone charger before. That's innovation. You're like a galactic Steve Jobs, but with tentacles.
He stared at the hammer, visibly impressed. Then his eyes drifted toward the screen. He squinted.
Now hold on a minute.
Thor said, suddenly overcome with joy.
You're watching that baking show? Croissant Redemption? Bro, that semi-final episode where Jean-Luc's dough got sabotaged by the ghost of Paul Hollywood? I felt that.
I froze. You watch it?
Every Wednesday, man.
Thor said, placing a reverent hand over his aggressively moisturized chest.
I even started proofing my own sourdoughs. It's a spiritual practice.
I eyed him with the cautious admiration one might reserve for a surprisingly sentient fern.
Also,
He added, pointing to Mjolnir now humming next to my phone.
I'm pretty sure the hammer's boosting your reception because it recognizes the emotional gravity of Jean-Luc's arc. Worthiness and dough structure, bro. It's all connected.
I opened my mouth to rebuke him, but Thor continued, unprompted and unashamed.
Did you know Captain America once lifted it mid-finale, said it was for buttery justice? And Beta Ray Bill, that guy baked a 9-layer pain au chocolat in Asgard once. Legendary.
Stop talking, I said.
But wait, Jane Foster got 1 bar of Wi-Fi from the hammer during her PhD defense. That's real divinity, man. PowerPoint and piety.
Thor,
Yeah?
stop talking. And before I could obliterate the concept of goat yoga from the timeline, the scent of smoldering bureaucracy clawed through space-time. Yog-Sothoth arrived like a celestial printer error.
Yeah. Hey, Cthulhu!
He said, voice dripping with administrative exhaustion.
So we've got another Pantheon infringement report. And I really need you to not violate Valhalla's sacred bandwidth. Odin's legal team is surprisingly litigious and shouty.
Thor waved.
Yagi, my dude, did you get my rune memes?
Yog twitched.
No one gets those. They have no punchline. They're just carved birds, Thor.
Thor looked genuinely hurt.
But they vibe.
Yog turned, fixing me with the look of a cosmic middle manager who'd seen one too many unauthorized miracles before lunch.
So hey, you'll need to vacate the throne and file a divine tech interference form. It's just, basic divine etiquette. Also law, also narrative sanitation, also stop breaking into people's afterlife properties like it's a transcendental scavenger hunt.
Thor raised a hand.
Wait, Yog, does it still come in those papyrus scrolls with the glitter header? Because I keep those. I scrapbook. It helps me process conflict.
Yog didn't even turn.
Thor, please. You once filed a petition to stream interpretive dance sermons via Thunderbolt. I am still in recovery.
Thor shrugged.
That was an era. Let it go.
Yog looked back at me, strangling his clipboard like it owed him overtime.
Cthulhu, this is your final warning. Step away from the divine furniture. Stop hijacking bandwidth with your pastry-fueled emotional broadcasts. And for the love of compliance, stop breaking into afterlife real estate like it's a reality show scavenger hunt. One more data rupture from your butter-induced tantrums, and I will personally reassign you to catalog the metaphysical anomalies of Reddit for eternity. Don't test me. I've got a whole department trained in divine asset repossession and no sense of humor left to lose.
Thor, now laying on a shield, added.
Kinda starting to like Mr. Big Squid here. We were vibing. Show was peaking. Felt communal.
York pointed a single bureaucratic tentacle at me.
Library now!
A burst of sourceless paperwork yanked me back through the portal. I landed in the Interdimensional Library's control room, Dewey glaring at me with the moral authority of 1,000 digital spreadsheets. I adjusted the router. Jean-Luc's croissant flickered, half-folded, noble, doomed. Dewey cleared his throat.
Shall I prepare a new access attempt?
I narrowed my eyes. No, not yet. Because next I wasn't going to beg for signal. I knew just the place, and I was ready to fall from grace to get it. The lake of ice was still, not silent. No, hell doesn't earn the dignity of silence, but still. The kind of brittle, unbearable hush where every echo sounds like it's second-guessing its life choices. I emerged near the 9th circle. Like a cosmic accident, someone tried to sweep under the eschatological rug. The library's emergency jump had been sharp, spiteful. It dropped me with just enough momentum to scuff the frozen shore, knocking over what might have once been a philosopher or an insurance claims adjuster. The air here didn't burn. It judged. And in the center of that unholy freezer isle of moral consequence was Lucifer, not roaring, not scheming, just sitting, frozen waist deep, wings drooped like forgotten metaphors, head bowed with the solemnity of someone who'd once had grandeur and now had tenure. He slowly turned, not with menace, more like someone slowly rotating an old office chair to find out who dared interrupt his lunch break.
Ah, the maw that babbled before Babel,
Lucifer said, in a tone that suggested I was either the 300th telemarketer this week, or a mid-level demigod trying to file for cosmic Wi-Fi extensions again.
Did the broadband collapse under divine bureaucracy, or did Olympus reroute your signal through a sacred kazoo?
The library lost connectivity. I'm rerouting through whatever realms still pass with enough narrative weight to carry a high-definition stream. He snorted.
You're piggybacking spiritual infrastructure to watch a baking show.
A croissant redemption. Don't you dare trivialize Jean-Luc's arc. Lucifer sighed. A long, deliberate exhale, like he was trying to breathe out the last several millennia of disappointment.
You know, I used to command choirs of flame and equations. Now I listen to eldritch freeloaders treat the afterlife like a metaphysical Best Buy.
Don't pretend you're above this. You're watching, aren't you? His eyes twitched, a flicker of emotion like the memory of flavor. Then grudgingly,
Only when the ghost of Paul Hollywood shows up. He reminds me of Raphael with a rolling pin.
didn't you write the original rules of celestial hierarchy? You must understand the stakes of a laminated dough finale.
Understand? I invented structural judgment. I once argued a treatise on whether angelic intent could be folded, not just layered.
I crouched beside the ice. So, you're saying this show resonates? He grunted.
It's the only thing left with honest stakes. Everything else down here is recursive punishment loops and motivational posters in Latin.
My croissant router was already humming. 1 bar, 2, a flicker. I pulled out my phone, rested it against his horn.
Hey, what?
Just trying to see if your residual fallen archangel grace radiates signal.
I swear, if that's a euphemism.
Quiet. It's buffering. We watched together in silent reverence, Jean-Luc poised before a half-risen doe, tension thick enough to slice with a cherub's harpstring. Lucifer stared, wide-eyed.
He's folding too fast.
I nodded grimly. He's cracking under pressure. And then, Yog. He did not arrive. He infiltrated, like divine HR spyware, disguised as a minor vibration in causality. He materialized just behind me, already sighing.
Yeah. Hey, Cthulhu. So I did say final warning. And now here you are, hijacking infernal infrastructure. Again.
I didn't look up. I'm technically not on the throne. Lucifer doesn't have furniture. He just sulks in historical consequence.
Still counts. You're compromising a sealed narrative layer, exploiting a punishment biome for emotional Wi-Fi, and you know what? Especially after we explicitly told you to avoid the monotheisms. They spiral into paradox and complaint emails. This is not a sandbox. It's hell.
Lucifer raised a frosty eyebrow.
Speak for yourself. He brought company and signal. That's more than the Trinity's done since the Renaissance.
Yog turned slowly.
Lucifer, you are not helping. Again.
Lucifer shrugged.
Would you prefer I let him break into Heaven's guest network? You know their capture is a parable now.
Yog's form vibrated with bureaucratic dismay.
Cthulhu! Back to the library now, before I revoke your signal privileges and hardwire your IP address into Dante's annotated grocery receipts.
I stood, slowly, not in defiance, in the solemnity of an addict denied resolution. The sigh which came from Lucifer sounded like all the caves of hell, lamenting at once.
You'll come back.
His voice dripped with casual indifference, but the kind you reserve for someone you've warred beside in forgotten heavens. I paused mid-step, doubtful. I've already overstayed my absolution. Lucifer gave a lazy flick of his fingers.
Tell Michael his swordsmanship peaked during the flood. And also, tell Jesus
He stopped, frowned, looked away.
Never mind.
We sat in that silence, the kind only ancient beings can share, the kind with whole histories packed into the unsaid. Then I turned. Thanks for the bandwidth. Lucifer waved one glacial hand.
Next time, bring Jean-Luc's signature dish.
Lucifer smirked faintly, shifting his head in his hand.
They forget I was the brightest, the favored, the architect of ambition.
Then after a long pause, more to himself than to us.
Here at least we shall be free. The Almighty hath not built here for his envy. Will not drive us hence. Here we may reign secure, and in my choice to reign is worth ambition, though in hell. Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven.
Yes, very dramatic. Save it for your next unauthorized gospel remix.
Yog groaned and snapped reality shut behind me. I crash-landed into the Interdimensional Library's main control core, like an angry comet wrapped in sarcasm. Reality wobbled. Dewey was already there, levitating gently above the console, like smug punctuation.
Welcome back.
He said, without turning.
How was hell cold enough for your taste?
I brushed infernal frost off my shoulders. Colder than your bedside manner. Update me. Why did the Wi-Fi die? Why was I reduced to trespassing through pantheons like a deranged eldritch DoorDash driver? Dewey said, tapping a few rooms that glowed with passive-aggressive competency.
Turns out the problem wasn't internal.
I narrowed my eyes. Explain. He turned, slowly, with the kind of theatrical pause only an artificial intelligence built for dramatic irony could muster.
Zeus.
I stared. Zeus, I repeated flatly.
He apparently, let me quote here, hot-linked his Omni-chair to the library's quantum mesh router to amplify the ambiance of his thunder aura during reruns of Divine Dating, Love Among the Pantheons.
I was quiet for a long moment. Then, he overloaded a cosmic archival system for vibes.
Vibes and vanity metrics.
Dewey confirmed.
He was attempting to live stream his own reactions in 12K with an animated lower third graphic that read, Big Z's Bolton Takes.
I began to unravel, not metaphorically, existentially. Tentacles twitched. The overhead lights dimmed. A forgotten sun blinked out in Quadrant 12. I have plummeted into theological ice. I have locked eyes with Lucifer while buffering mid-semi-final. I used Lucifer's fucking horn as a signal antenna. And this lightning-brained, ego-basted thunderjock demigod has been draining the library's divine mesh bandwidth to livestream his cheekbones in ultra-high-def vanity fog.
Affirmative.
Why didn't we detect it? Dewey shrugged.
His metadata stream was tagged under Lightning Maintenance Protocol. Turns out he was spoofing sacred upkeep codes.
I looked up at the ceiling and whispered dark, squamous things to the universe. Then I looked back. Is it fixed?
I isolated his IP and redirected his connection to a recursive slideshow of Hera's divorce proceedings.
I placed a reverent hand on the console. You magnificent digitized bastard. Dewey smirked. Digitally, of course.
Also, your show's back.
The screen flickered to life. Jean-Luc was there, poised, confident, rolling dough like it contained the secrets of the cosmos. I exhaled. Finally. Let the lesson be known. I silently decreed as the aroma of cosmic flower filled the air. Never trust a thunder god with broadband access. And never name your Wi-Fi after yourself.